which is sleeping. I made a few notes on some things that I thought would be helpful. I've been in the silver-haired legislators since approximately 2011, when I first came in. Like many of you, I had no idea as to what I was doing, and now I have a clue as to what to do. As you see, there's a lot to learn each time that we go through. So these are my thoughts for the silver-haired legislators. I want to say that as president, I don't run anything, and presidents should not think of themselves as running anything. They're not autocrats. They don't make the rules and judge and do everything. They do it by teamwork. And this is how we're going to be able to go forward. Everybody has a voice in here. You know, I'm approachable, Jay was approachable, and we've had presidents in the past that were a little less approachable, but we're all team members and we have to work together. So these are the thoughts that I'm going to share with you, that I'm going to share in detail with our executive committee. When I make these suggestions, I want to get the feedback from all the executives. These are the chairpersons of each one of the PSAs. And then once I can get a buy-in from them, I get a different perspective, and then we can come back together, and then we're going to share it with all the delegates. Just because we're the executive committee, we don't make the final decision. That's a decision that we make together. And I want us to think of that way. We have a very powerful platform in which that we can operate from. And if we don't get out there and show pride in it, then the legislators don't show very much pride and faith in us. As has been mentioned many times before, we have over 650,000 seniors. Those seniors have children that are voting age, and those grandparents have grandchildren that may be of voting age. So that puts us well over 1 million potential votes. But if we don't get out and let them know what we do and why we are, then nobody knows. It's the best kept secret. Another thing I want to clear before we go forward, we are not out there to tell and implement policies or procedures, who's eligible for certain benefits and things of that nature. That's how we get into trouble. We are out there to accept the information that they share with us. Then we get back to our AAA facilities and we let them know what we found out. And then once they find out that there's a problem, we cannot help Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so because of legislation, then that's when we get busy. We come together and each of our PSAs and we talk about it. And when that information comes together and we have multiple PSAs with the same problems, then we come forward. And then we have our midsummer analysis about what we're going to do. And then once we decide, as it was talked about earlier, as to we narrow it down to get to where we are today, that's what we're up here today to discuss what you have found out in your respective PSAs. And so the things that I'm going to share with you are some things to help enhance and make sure that we have a good vehicle and a good platform to continue representing the seniors of Kansas. The first thing that I want to talk about is to create a comprehensive handbook to describe the duties and responsibilities of elected officials and appointed committees. There's a lot of things out here that we think that we need to be doing or we feel we should be doing, and nobody knows who's doing what at what time. You know, that works when you got a close-knit people where people ran things like the Herb Hoffman, the Jim Snyder, and the people in the past. That worked good. But Jay and I and Don and Gary and a few others out there, when Jim left, oh my God. Oh, we couldn't even get passwords. We were lost. So we need to know what we're doing and we need to be able to work together. The next thing, and like I said, I'm not going into detail with this. This is something that I want to discuss with our executive committee to get their input on it so that we can come back together as a united front and share it with you in detail once we've got it worked out. I want to establish a recognition of existence and purpose of the SHL by way of comprehensive mini brochure, a business card with information about the delegate and the SHL website, and also a QR code. We want to let the young people that we know what QR codes are, and we know how to use them. And if you don't know, we're going to educate you so we can use QR codes, because the young people are our future. They're going to be our replacements. And if we don't educate them with our wisdom, then when it comes time for them to be in a leadership position, we're going to have to depend on them, and they're not going to do anything. Steve and I were having a conversation this morning about the young people. They know everything, and it's hard to listen, but we got to educate them. So we got to use our wisdom and use their youth and their technology so that we can keep this going forward. So I want to do it with business cards. I'm going to share some examples of business cards that we use at PSA 1, and then our liaison, Linda Ramirez, she designed one with some interesting updates on there, and I'm going to share with them. And if the executive committee feels it's worth it, bring it out to the whole, then we'll bring it out to the whole. But I don't do anything or try to bring anything as president on my own without the support of my executive committee, which I have decided that that's the best way to go forward. In other words, if it works, then we all share in it. If it doesn't work, then we all share in it. I think someone mentioned about hiring a delegate for our company. That was one of the things I had on this, so I figured I must be on the right track right there. We're going to hire a dedicated webmaster that maintains and updates the websites at the authorization of the current and future presidents to maintain order and legal acceptable publishing of information on the website. We have Sherry Grogan, which has been our IT person for the day, and we have did some recordings, and she's also done some things with the various forms of what was it that you did? What was it?
Zoom training. Zoom training.
Zoom training.
A while back.
Okay, that's something that we got to get current with. It's not that difficult, but if we got the education on it, we can go forward with it. So we want to get modernized with the SHL.
Sometimes you can go to colleges and you can hire students that are a lot cheaper than companies, and will do just as good work. They're students. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, that's the thing.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, like I said, you know, Gary's one of the executives. I mean, and those are the things that we're going to be able to bring out so we can go forward. And Gary, this Jimmy has also requested a discussion on scholarship pertaining to the SHL as a whole. You know, we are looking for different medical personnel that deals in geriatrics. Okay, we want somebody that's dedicated, that's going to school, to understand what's going on, to be able to take care of us. So we want to make sure that we can do what we can to contribute to the education through our scholarship program, in which we've all donated today. So we want to continue doing that and stay forward, stay up front with it. Want to establish a standard, clearly defined operational format that compels all PSAs to a unified, acceptable business of order. PSA, we do our meetings one way. PSA 11 may do theirs another way. 5 does it that way. 8 does it. We all do different things, but we need to standardize it. It doesn't have to be the same format every time, but we need to know what's going on. So if I drop in to visit PSA 11, which is Katie Hoffman, which is in Johnson County next to us, I know pretty much where they are and what's going on. If they drop into PSA 1, which is Wyandotte, Leavenworth County, they know what's going on. If we come to 5 or 8, we know what's going on. So we need to be a unified front. So if someone stops us, we know what we're doing because we're pretty much all on the same page. We may have different problems, but we're on the same page. So we got to define those things so that we can stay uniform. And I can start going into more detail with them. And another thing that I looked at, how many people have heard of the National Silver Hair Congress? Anybody? Did you? So obviously nobody knew that it existed. There's a National Silver Hair Congress. We need to be involved in that. We need to be involved in the National Silver Hair Congress. That's just dealing on a different level, but we're dealing with multiple states throughout the United States. So therefore, when we have legislation that requires federal support, and we can come together united to do that. I'm going to talk with our executive committee about further investigation to see if this is something that we want to pursue. Just a couple more things. That we draft a proposal for a standard stipend funded by the state of Kansas. Who's that asked about the expenses of driving back and forth? I did turn around and see it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We need something that we can be given as a small stipend for the expenses that we come back. There's gas, there's transportation, cost for your vehicles, then there's room and board when you get here, and then you buy your own meals. Come on, guys, we do this because we love it. You know what I'm saying? We're not doing this for a paycheck. We're doing it out of the pride and city. And we have got to get some results from it and get some respect. So asking for a stipend is something that I don't think is out of line, especially when you get the senators. They get a daily per diem and everything. We should certainly get something to reimburse us for our trip to our annual sessions. So again, I'll be talking with the executive committee to see what kind of input, to see if we want to go forward with it. And if you have some ideas or some suggestions with it, get with your chair, submit it to them, and let them know what's going on so that they can bring it to us so we can come together and find something that works. I want to reach out to the neighboring states that currently have SHL organizations. Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City PSA 1 is right next door to Kansas City, Missouri. I periodically ask them, do they have a silver-haired legislators? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say they don't know. So I figure they're in the same boat as we are. They don't know either. Sometimes I've asked different people right there in Kansas City, have you ever heard of the silver-haired legislator? They go, well, no, I don't think so, you know, and that's really discouraging to do that. I may be premature, but I was expecting for some of the people from Kansas City to come this afternoon, or come tomorrow, that really need to know more about the SHL. I'm going to make a phone call and see if I can encourage them to try to come, but I need to get with the our liaison and find out what the details are. So we need to educate our various legislators, our commissioners, and other people the importance of keeping the SHL healthy and then supporting us by making a donation. I think we're going to, Clarence, we're going to be sending out a letter based off of the input from the executive committee to ask our commissioners to send a donation in to help offset some of the expenses. I want to suggest also, like I said, that we do business cards. A business card will help you to expedite a conversation with somebody that you meet at the grocery store, at the doctor's office, or someplace else. The business card will have information on how to contact you. It will have information on how to get on our website, and they can read about our missions on there. And the one thing that I like about the business card that we designed, it will have a photograph of you on that business card. The one thing that I think that we should not have on that business card is our rank, our title of office, or things of that nature, because that's subject to change every odd year. So if we have a generic business card, we can have information about us and we can pass it off. And even if you're no longer a silver-haired legislator and you're in good standings, feel comfortable to still pass that card out and pass that information on. Because you can be a support for us. Okay. I want to talk about the having a transition team for new officers and new elections. You know, for those that were on Zoom, when Ross had to step down because of whatever issues or concerns that he was having, he self-regulated. He knew that he could not, and he stepped aside. He didn't stay in there and impede progress. Katie came on board, and she was first vice president. And she, for whatever reason was not willing to do that at this time, but she called me and says, Thomas, I'll be with you. I'll help you with whatever you want. But right now, I just got too much going on. I never thought, me being second vice president, that I would become president. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm safe, but that's not going to happen. And when they start laughing on Zoom, I said, oh, why are they laughing? And then it hit me. But the thing about it is that I served with Jay as his vice president for several terms. And we made a great team together. And I said, Jay, I'll take it if you will stand there beside me and walk me through that because I don't know what to do. And Jay has done a tremendous job. Don't you think he's done it? That's the kind of teamwork that we need, guys. We don't need to get out there and point fingers on people if they're inefficient or they're not doing it. Don't stand back and criticize them. Go up to them in private and try to help them understand what's happening. Because if we help one, then we become strong. We need to have an alternative for each position that we're in. Gary came into being treasurer because there was nobody else that wanted to do it. And Gary said, well, okay. So how long have you been doing it now, Gary?
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, come on, I know many of you guys are farmers out there, so like, you gotta take a mule out the field sometimes.
Yeah. I was told that's the only reason I get to spend.
So we want to make sure that we have an alternative so we don't wear good people out. We want to have monthly Zoom educational meetings. We want to have those educational meetings where that we can take the technology that Sherry has together and say, okay, we're going to have Zoom training. We're going to talk about how to carry a bill, how to conduct yourselves at one of the annual sessions. It can be just a small 20-minute video that we talk about. We can have people that do presentations. We can have Russell do it, have Jay, Don, or anyone. We can do those things. And if we need to revert back to it, we can go back on our website, look on it, and click on that and see what we need to do so we can educate ourselves about what's going on. Because we've got to know and we've got to be able to pass it on to the other people that are going to take our place. So that's part of the modernization that I want to try to bring forward. The other program, and just to reiterate, is that we definitely got to go to our commissioners and ask them for money. Now, one of the amounts that I have in my mind, again, I've not talked with the executive committee, we've talked with you, but I think at one time we were looking at a figure, we could tell each one of our commissioners, hey, we want $125 per delegate to be paid to the Silverhead Legislature. So therefore, when you're coming up here, we can reimburse you for mileage. We can pay for your room. We can pay for your meal. But we got to do it with money. We don't need to keep coming out of our pockets, paying for it over and over. So when these letters go out to your commissioners, make it a point to talk with them and tell them what it is that you do and encourage them to send in $125 a year. Come on, guys, it's been that much at the car wash. But all in all, it's like these are the things that I would like to do and set the agenda for, not to be enforcing it or forcing it down your throat. I just want to set the agenda for it to have discussion with the executive committee, and then once we do it, then we come forward to you. That's what I want to do as president, and I thank you very much for your confidence. And I am so proud to be president of the Kansas Silverhead Legislature. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. Is there any questions? I'm sorry.